is Rebecca from. Hi, I think I started too early. This is Rebecca from Rebecca the Irish Teacher. I've been asked to come on to Mash.ie today just to run through a Q&A and just ask a couple of questions, answer a couple of questions. So if you have any questions that you want to ask me, make sure to pop them in the live chat box and I'll try and answer as many questions as I can. So a bit about me. I am a second class teacher in an Educate Together school in Dublin. I am in my 5th year of teaching and I did my BA in PATS when I finished my Leaving Cert and I did an arts degree. And I always wanted to be a primary school teacher. So I kind of went to PATS with the intention of being a teacher. My mum is an SNA in the local school and she used to always tell me about some of the primary teachers who did arts and then went on and did their postgrad in the UK. So that was kind of my plan always. So I really enjoyed the 3 years in the arts degree. I found it really like easygoing and relaxed and I just really enjoyed it. There wasn't a whole lot of pressure on me and yeah, it was a really nice time. And then in the 3rd year, then I started applying to some colleges through UCAS. So I applied to 2 colleges in Scotland and 1 in England. And I ended up going to England to Edge Hill University, which is just outside Liverpool. And it was a fantastic year. It was really hard going in terms of like workload, going from an arts degree in PATH, which was like something like 11 hours a week or something like that, going to full-time 9 to 6 lectures from September to I think it was December. No, it was November. And then we went into 60% teaching from November to February. So my first placement was in Luton, which is just outside of London. And that was 60% teaching then. And then my second placement was on the Scottish border in a little village called Norham. So that went from being a 4-form entry school in Luton to doing my next placement in a tiny village school with only 2 classrooms on the Scottish border. So I was teaching a mixed multi-grade of 3 different classes and it was just nuts. So yeah, it was really great year. From there I went on to do my NQT year in Luton and then I did 3 years in Qatar and now is my first year teaching in Ireland after all that. So I'm back here finally teaching up in Dublin in 2nd class. So that was a quick description of me. How did I go into, or why did I go into teaching? So I have a bit of a cliche answer for this. I have always wanted to be a teacher. My mom always tells a story of when my brother got a blackboard for his 4th birthday, I think, or 5th or 4th birthday, and I wouldn't let him play with it. So I always had to be playing with the blackboard, even though I was 2 years old. So from then she used to always joke and say, yeah, Rebecca's always going to be a teacher. And I just always wanted to be a teacher up through primary school, secondary school. I think there might have been a phase where I wanted to be a home ec teacher, but it never veered from being a teacher. I knew I wouldn't get the points for primary teaching, which kind of put home ec teaching out the window then because that was a lot more. But yeah, I kind of went into it because I knew that it was a really good family orientated career. And of course, at 17, you're not thinking about a family orientated career. You're just thinking of, you know, a good job, a fun job that might make you a bit of money or a job that you want to travel with. And I suppose looking at my mom, who's an SNA, and she was always around for us. And she always had such amazing summers going on holidays. I suppose it just kind of set it up for me that that's what I wanted to do. And my mom always had funny stories about working with the kids and, you know, all the fun things that she got to do. And I just thought that that seemed like a job for me. I also went in and did work experience in her school a couple of times. And I just loved it. I thought it was brilliant. So that's probably why I went into it in the long answer. Hi, Joanne. Thanks for messaging in. Teaching life before and after lockdown. So I've kind of gone through a snippet of my teaching career so far. So I did Liverpool training, then Luton, taught year 5 in Luton, which was really intense. I'll go into that a bit later, maybe if there's interest. And then 3 years in Qatar and then here in Ireland. So before lockdown, I suppose my day started with an early morning get up. So I have about an hour's commute to work. So I always leave at 7 o'clock, between 7 and 7:15, depending on how early I get up. So I like to get up about 6 to 6:15, and that seems like crazy early when I'm leaving an hour later, but I just like to have that time in the morning to wake up. So I'll go down and make a coffee, and then I'll leave for my commute, get into work about 5 to 8, and I always like to have the lessons kind of really prepared in the morning. I always have to turn the laptop on straight away because it just seems to be a thing with me that I have a fear of technology. It's always breaking down on me. Either the laptop breaks or won't turn on or something like that. So I always like to get that on and sorted nice and early. And I feel once the lessons are prepared early on in the day, I'm kind of set up for the day then. And then when my SNA and support teacher pop in the mornings, we always kind of bounce off each other and discuss what we're going to do that day. We're all really flexible, and it's such a good working relationship. Like, they could say, you know, Rebecca, this child yesterday maybe didn't pick this up, or I think it might be better if you run over this again. So there's a lot of team teaching going on. Like, I could start off the lesson and go over to a group, and then my support teacher might jump in and take over the lesson, or there's just a lot of change the whole time, which is really nice. I quite like that working environment, that it's always different and it's always for the kids. You know, it's never like standing up and doing the same type of lessons every day. So I suppose my teaching life was always quite busy in a good way. And I suppose my training and my tough teaching in the UK probably set me up for that I work really hard while I am in school, but I've also learned to prioritize my workload. So the work that I do, even though it's quite difficult while I'm in school and I'd work really hard, I might come in an hour before work, stay an hour after. Once I leave that school, that's my work done. And I really like that I've kind of developed that work ethic. I feel like as a teacher, there's always something that you have to do. So I could go home every single evening and do schoolwork if I wanted to. There's always something that you could do, but it doesn't make for a good work-life balance. It doesn't make for a happy teacher in the long run. So I've tried to really get my teaching life under the couple of hours in school, and then once I go home, that's my time. And that work-life balance has made me a better teacher, I think. Tips for NQTs, Joanne. I just saw your question come in there. So NQT, I suppose the main tip, I think, is to ask for advice, ask for support, ask questions when you're unsure, because I think that's something that NQTs feel, that once they're qualified, they feel that they have to know everything and they have to be the best at everything, and now that they're qualified, that they need to be able to do everything perfectly, when actually you're still learning. Like, I'm still learning now, and I'm in my 5th year now. But I think my main tip for NQTs is just don't be afraid to ask. And I saw a quote during the year that was really stood out for me, and it's like, the best form of PD can sometimes be down the hall. That a teacher in your school could be the best person for you at that time. Like, if you're struggling with behavior management, or you're struggling with a particular child that needs support because of something that's going on at home, or maybe you're just struggling to teach a particular aspect in maths, there's always somebody there that's willing to help you. So I think for NQTs, your best piece of advice is to just ask and not be afraid to ask. When you're not teaching, what are you likely to be doing? This is a very hard question to answer. I do a lot of things in my spare time, but I wouldn't say I stick to one thing. So, like, at the moment, I do a lot of running. So I'm doing a virtual challenge online, where I'm training to do a half marathon in 12 weeks. So at the moment, I'm doing running 4 times a week, which has been brilliant, because obviously with lockdown, you can kind of get stuck in your house sometimes. So I just find, with that virtual challenge of giving me a timetable every week, it's getting me out of the house. I do a lot of work on my blog. I do some work on my Instagram, but even though I do a lot of work on Instagram, on my blog, and making resources, I can go through phases where I get sick of the laptop and I don't want to be near my laptop, and I could go through days, weeks where I just don't want to do it. And when I get like that, I don't go near my blog and I don't go near my online resources. And I think that is what kind of makes my resources better, because I'm not making them when I'm not happy about the resource. I'm not putting a blog post up just because I feel I have to. I'll only do it when I'm kind of passionate about something. So yeah, Instagram, blog, running, I suppose meeting up with my friends, walking, eating dinners, that kind of thing. Loads and loads and loads. My superpower. Not too sure how to answer this question. I'm not the best person for giving myself any sort of compliment whatsoever, but I suppose if I was to think about it, I'm really, really self-motivated, and I think that is a good quality to have. That's probably the most you'll ever hear me say anything good about myself. But no, I think like I could get up in the morning, and even if I'm tired or even if I've had a bad sleep or anything, I can always pull myself up and get on with things. And I think that kind of came from my mom when we were younger. She would have always said to us, get up and get on with things, make the most of your day and make every day a positive day. And that's in the most supportive way. Like, she would have always talked us through stuff, and if ever we had a problem, like, she'd obviously talk to us about it, but she was really much one for saying, get up and get on with it, make the most of every day. So I suppose I'm quite a positive person like that. I do try to make the most of every day. And with everything going on at the moment, I think it's easy to find yourself in a slump. And it's okay to do that some days, of course. But I think being self-motivated, it just gets me up and about and doing stuff that I'm happy about all the time. So yeah, that would probably be my superpower. So my new book, if you don't know, I wrote an ebook over the Easter holidays about creating resources, selling resources, and promoting resources. So when I started my Instagram in 2018, I think it was, I just started one day talking about making resources and how I did it. And I wanted to see, was there an interest in it? So I put up a few IGTV videos on my Instagram, which are actually still there. So if you want to go and check them out, please do. And what I was just basically showing people was how I made them. So there's no crazy skill to it or anything. It was just something that people didn't know, same as I didn't know before I started. So I make my resources on PowerPoint. So I was just kind of showing people how I did it. And then after I put up the series of videos, I asked, did anybody want free templates? So the templates were just, if people wanted to make resources themselves, I had the measurements all done out if they wanted them. So I put up kind of like an email subscription kind of box. So I said, if you want these templates, leave your email and I'll send them on to you. So I was thinking maybe 20 people might send me their email, 50 people, whatever. I got over 1,000 people asking me for these templates. So that kind of sparked it in me that there was a big interest in this, even if it was just for people making them for their own classes. It doesn't matter. Some people want to sell them, some don't, that's fine. But the bottom line of it was that people were interested. So it kind of was in my mind that that's what people had an interest in. Then when the Easter holidays came about, I was kind of looking for something to do myself. And I saw this course about writing an ebook. So as I was doing the course, it kind of meshed the two ideas together. I was like, oh, well, there is an interest in people making their own resources, so I'll try and write it about that. So as I wrote the book, I took to Instagram just to see would there be an interest in it. And the more I posted about it, the more questions I got about it, and the more people were saying, oh, can you make sure to talk about, previews, or can you make sure to talk about how to give credit to people that you buy images from and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of snowballed from there. It took me about a week to write the book, and I got my friends and family to read over it and make sure there was no glaringly obviously bad spellings or anything like that, and made sure it was readable. So the course I did it only took me, I think, a day to do the course, and then the book was written in a week. So the book basically covers three main areas for resources. So the first main area is how to create them. So I go through really, really basic step-by-step how I make them and other ways that you could possibly make your resources. The second part of the book kind of goes on about how you could set up your own shop online and sell your resources, and ways about pricing, because I know when I started I hadn't a clue about pricing my resources, didn't know what to put. So it just kind of goes through that. And then the third part of the book is about promoting your resources and how you can promote old resources as well as your new ones, and just how to keep kind of a passive income coming in there if that's what you're interested in, because there is a big interest in teachers, especially I find, looking for just additional ways to make a little bit of extra money. So everything in the book is stuff that I've picked up over the last 4 years. So I've been making my resources for 4 years. I started selling them on an English website, hadn't a clue what I was doing. And when I look back at my resources, some of them are shocking. Like, I don't know how I used them myself. So I just kind of thought, if anyone did, like me, want to set it up, by downloading my ebook, they had a step-by-step way just to start correctly and avoid any of the main, I suppose, pitfalls that people make when they do it. And just like, I had 100 questions when I started selling mine and no one to ask them to. So I feel this ebook has a lot of the answers in it. And I've also put a few tutorials with the ebook as well. So you're getting the knowledge there for you, download it, you can read it. And then I've also got tutorials to show you how to do it too, because I know I learn better from being shown as opposed to reading it. So I have both options there. So that is my new book. Number one tip for teachers looking to start creating and selling resources. Okay, so this is something I didn't do, but I think it's so important. So when you're starting to sell your resources, I think you need to pick a niche area. And a niche area is something that you are incredibly passionate about. You think you are really good at teaching this area, or just you use these type of lessons every week and they go really well for you. So it could be mental maths, it could be STEM, it could be Irish verbs, it could be anything at all that you think that you teach really well. I would start making resources in that area and stick to it. So for me at the moment, my main resources are in guided reading, and I make mainly at the moment guided reading lessons, and there seems to be a good interest in it. But when I look at my account and I look at my Instagram account, people learn to trust you when you constantly use your resources in your own classroom and talk about the way you teach that subject. So I talk a lot on my Instagram about how I teach whole class guided reading. I use Instagram TV to show how I teach it. I use Instagram to post images of my resources, and it just means that you kind of gain this trust of somebody who is really knowledgeable in that area, and then people will start to buy your resources because they figure that you can do something that they can't. So if I think of STEM resources, I don't know a lot about STEM myself, but I do know of teachers through Instagram who I would go to and buy their resources based off what they've shown me. So you need to come across as an expert in a particular area, or even really knowledgeable. And once you have picked your passionate area, start making your resources and try and sell them. Maybe make a Facebook account or an Instagram account to showcase these resources, and that will be a great starting point. After you've gained a bit of a following and a trusting audience, you could then dip into other areas of the curriculum, absolutely. But I would start off by focusing on one particular niche area. So helpful and inspiring as always. Love your content page and resources. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you so much. That's such a lovely message to get. And anyone who sends me messages through Instagram as well, it's so much appreciated. Thanks so much for that. My next project. Oh, I don't know. I'm so torn. So as I've mentioned before, I'm really motivated. So I could listen to a podcast in the morning about baking a 3-tiered cake, and that's what I'll want to do that day. So at the moment, I don't have a particular project that I'm focused on. I kind of dip in and out with the idea of writing another ebook, but my next ebook that I'm thinking of would be about teaching whole class guided reading. And at the moment, there's just no interest in that because obviously we're not in class. So I might write that book, but I won't be promoting it or selling it until we're back in school and until people can use it, because at the moment there's just no interest in that. Other things I've thought about is updating my blog and making it more user friendly. And then what else? I suppose making more resources, but I don't really have any set projects. That is my next thing in line. So I think that is my last question for the day. I want to thank everybody for sending in messages through my personal Instagram and through the live chat here. You're all so supportive, and thanks again for another lovely message. It's so nice to see like the Irish teaching community is just so supportive of each other. If there's anything else that you want to know, please get in touch. And if I can help with anything, you know where I am. Thanks.